Sorry, I never get used to this thing. Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting to order and need a resolution to adopt the agenda.
Okay, be it resolved that the agenda for the special meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Dysart et al. Held on January 12th, 2024 be approved as presented.
Mover and seconder, Pat and Carm, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Being none. Okay, so we're going to do a resolution then to go into closed to discuss the collective agreement.
Okay, be it resolved that council adjourn its special meeting at 9:01 a.m. to discuss matters pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act as amended pertaining to labor relations or employee negotiations, which is the QP collective agreement.
Okay, resolution, mover and seconder. Pat and Tammy, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Well, another minute. Boy, you're eating all the minutes up on us there. And they have a copy of that, don't they? Do they have a copy of that?
Yeah, it's on the closed session.
Yeah. Right. Oh, just a second. No, that's okay. Okay. I don't know why they have to come when they to make a presentation. Anyway. Morning.
Morning, I'm already in good mood. I saw the groomer head down the rail trail this morning.
Murray, would you like me to read the resolution reporting from closed? Are we live again?
Yes, please.
Okay, be it resolved that council authorizes the execution of a new collective agreement with QP Local 2142 effective January 1st, 2024 through to December 31st, 2027.
Okay, mover and seconder. Barry and Pat, all in favor? Thank you. Okay. Okay, now we're ready to get to I guess Dagmar, you're going to make a presentation, so if you can come up here.
All right, well, we can leave it on. Well, thank you. On behalf of the Rails End Gallery and Art Center, I want to thank Murray Ferry, Mayor Murray Ferry, and council for giving us this opportunity to talk today. Normally it's Laurie Jones who comes at this time of year, but she's away on family business.
Okay.
So I am the president of the board, have been for a couple of terms. And actually I've been on the board for most of the 20 years that I've lived in Haliburton. The Rails End is, if you haven't been there, I encourage you to come for the member show mid-February. It's one of the defining features of York Street. You go along York Street and you've got the new tourist structure, the caboose, Head Lake Park, Rails End, our boxcar, and then the Four Cs. Those are the significant structures on the street. So we want to do some things to keep the Rails End being a vibrant place for the community. First, we want to thank you for your continued support. Without the operating grant, we couldn't continue to operate. So we do want to thank you for that. We also wanted to ask that you consider some kind of a professional assessment of the building. I don't know if you know Laurie Jones. She is an amazing grant writer. She does so well at grants and proposals. She's connected to the supporting groups that can guide her and give her some advice on how to get grant money. Yeah, she did the Trillium grant that gave us the big renovation in the kitchen. So Lori is really good at grant writing. And a lot of the things that the Rails End needs right now, like insulation and what used to be the waiting area, which is the lower gallery, or I see that the soffits are fascias being done this week, so that's amazing. We would love to see an entrance off York Street because the building, it's the back of the building that you see on York Street. So those sorts of things, a deck repair, capital expenses, often when she is preparing a proposal or for some operating grant, they need a more professional opinion to support the grant proposal for those things. So we're asking council to consider that going forward so that we can apply for some of the things that the gallery needs to be done. But we do want to really gratefully thank you for all the support over the years. We couldn't operate without it. And it's such a welcoming place, and it's financially accessible to everybody in this community. So thank you very much.
So I just want to be clear what you're really asking for. You're asking for, you're going to do the grant applications
Lori usually does
Does
that
that.
in conjunction with
with staff here.
staff here, yes.
Okay, and that's what you're asking for.
And we're asking for a more professional, and Lori's been in touch with, she knows what kind of organizations or what kind of consulting people, and I know consultants aren't, there's always money spent on consultants, but she knows the kind of report that a consulting firm can provide that supports our grant application. She can better speak to that, but she's aware of what we need in terms of that.
Well, we don't have a good taste in our mouth about
Oh, I
consultants
know,
these days.
I know.
So,
And it might not be that kind of big
Yeah.
consultant. So
Maybe it's just somebody with expertise on, yeah.
who's got some credentials that
It's credible. Yeah.
is credible.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Okay,
Any other questions?
Mm.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
and Nancy is your rep, so
Yes.
she'll convey whatever we do there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I think Barb, do you want to go next here? Like I said, we had at the bottom of that page that we just handed out, Barb will explain that to you. We were down to 12.71, I think, before that. And she'll explain the process there and where we could end up, and then we'll hear other views about where we might end up and how we'd get there. So, Barb, do you want to go forward there now, or?
I can start off. So good morning, and I will share my screen. So if you can just confirm that you're seeing the welcome page for the budget.
Yep, that looks good, Barbara.
Okay, thank you. So good morning, members of council. Today, we're going to be presenting the second draft of the 2024 budget. The presentation will highlight changes from the first budget that was held on December the 8th. And we will also provide some additional opportunities to contain the municipal tax levy increase for 2024. So just a little bit of a recap for 2023. We're still working on finalizing the figures, and we anticipate on closing out the working fund reserve at about $1.5 million. So we anticipate a little bit of a surplus. What that value would be at this point, we're still working towards that. So the presentation has been prepared based on a tax levy increase of 12.5%, or sorry, 12.79%. And so there is some opportunity here to draw on some reserve funds. And I'll go into greater detail about that to bring the tax levy down to what we're looking at, about 6.48%. So currently, if we're going to consider a 12.71% tax levy increase, we'll see here that on a $100,000 assessment for residential, it's $40.18. For commercial, it's $59.58. And for the industrial, it is $69.04. So our tax base is split residential 95% and commercial and industrial 5%. So we did recognize 1.7% growth in 2023 that we're able to capitalize on in 2024.
Which is pretty high, by the way.
It is. A 4-year average is about 107,000. So we did have a very good year in 2023. We actually had $64 million worth of additional assessment closed out on the returned roll. So here we're looking at the impact if we were to consider a 6.48% levy increase. And so to achieve this 6.48%, the proposal for council to consider would be to draw on the reserve funds. So the one draw would be on our working funds, which is $450,000. So based on the reserve fund policy, our working funds exceed the current target limit. So this is where we're pulling from that surplus. And we're also looking to draw $250,000 from the Capital Roads Reserve Fund. Now, in this particular case here, we would also, if council decides to take on that option, there needs to be a commitment that council would put that $250,000 back into the reserve in 2025, along with the usual annual reserve contribution.
And that's come from the rental rates, right?
That's correct.
Which Rob bumped last year again.
Right.
So there's, and that's what we buy our equipment out of. So we got to keep that in good shape, right?
Right. So here it's just a visual picture of where our tax rate is going to land for 2024. And bear in mind, this is at 12.71%. If we're going to consider a 6.48% increase, obviously that will come down.
So I want to make clear here that we're not robbing a reserve that isn't over what it's anticipated that we should have. We have extra money in the working funds.
Correct.
So if you're going to give somebody a break, that's not a penalty, and but we do have to put the 250 back, right?
Right.
Otherwise, we won't have money to buy equipment. So so that's a thought. That's one way of doing it. And what happens here is if you increase it 6.48% this year, that's already built in with this year's budget. So the roads budget, whatever that is, 3.2 or whatever it is, Rob, 3 point some, that can stay the same. So we don't fall back on our construction project, because we got roads at Kenice that desperately need done next year. And there's like, this is never ending. So this gives us an opportunity to at least stay up to date on the roads overall, not fall behind. If we start, like, there's all kinds of options, and Pat has some thoughts too, that we could probably cut back on the surfacing. But then if we do, it's got to be surface. It's got to be this. We have to put the second layer on next year. And if we can do it this way, it's pretty painless. And I think, and I don't think people they may be shy on a 12 or 13% increase, but I think they know that it's gonna be increased. Equipment's up, labor's up, everything's up. Hydro's up, gas is up. So we definitely have to have more money to operate. So I think people understand that, but you gotta remember, we had record growth. And we've absorbed that in the budget along with the 6% increase, or 6.48, so it's really probably up 7 or 8% in reality, what normally it would be. So, but we all benefit from that extra growth, that's pretty amazing growth, I wouldn't count on that another year. I think it's gonna go a little down.
We say, and I'm just throwing these figures out, there.
Yep.
So we're trying to get to 6.48.
4.8,
So, and to do that, we're saying we gotta take 250,000 out.
out of, yeah, and that we have to put
That-
back,
Yep, but we have to put it back.
yeah.
So
next
we're
year.
we're gonna be kind of in the same boat next year again a little bit.
No, we're not, because it's like compound interest.
Yes, okay.
So, yeah, the 6 is added to the 6 next year again. You see, like,
Gotcha. Okay.
so,
So, yep. okay,
yeah, it'd
got
be
it.
6 next year too. Yeah, you're right,
Right.
Pat.
Yep.
Which is not, I don't think, unbearable.
Yeah. What if we went to like a 9? And I'm not saying that's what we're gonna do, but just what happens then? Where are we at then?
Well,
9-3 next year.
yeah, it'd be 3 next year. But
So
we
it's-
have to
yeah.
borrow more from somebody. Or no, I also put it on the taxes.
Right.
So we'd either take more out of reserves or we'd put it on the taxes. But if we can't, we're all right taking, what are we taking here? 250, 450 out of the working fund. Well, you can't take much more than that because you have to keep it to a certain level.
Right. Yep.
So I think it was 1.5 or something. So we're fine. We're still meeting the
Okay.
goal. So, Pat, did you? have
Yeah,
something?
just a question for Rob. Rob, do we have I see 2 million in there for bridges for this year coming? It's not gonna be, that'll be continuous, will it not? We're going from one bridge to the next for the next while or 2 years?
I can hardly hear you, Pat.
Sorry, Walt. So, yeah. So we're doing 2 bridges this year or a single, the one that?
The hope is to do 2 bridges
For the 2 million.
for 2.5, I
Okay.
believe it is,
Yeah.
and funded over 40 years.
Okay. So are we? All right, so that's amortized over 40 years, then so that's not coming out of the cash and the lump sum.
No, we're borrowing that.
Okay, well, that's good to know. All right, so my own approach to keeping this down, of course, was a suggestion of maybe cutting our roads expenditures in terms of resurfacing by 50%, which brings it down by 1.1 million, but the typical problem you face is you pay now or pay double later at the same with
No.
roads and especially in Kenese Lake area, they've been prolonged for a long time in terms of getting repaired, so we're kind of caught in that aspect of it, but anyway, I just want to clarify the bridge stuff, whether we had to count for 2 million out of our own genes every
Yeah.
year coming up, so.
Well, the other thing we got coming up is, we're gonna have to do some borrowing in this council term. There's no doubt about it. Bridges is one thing, but we've got some major costs coming on our landfills. If we do that reshuffle there, it's probably gonna be a couple of $1 million too that we won't have. So, but, going back to the bridges, we still don't have approval for a culvert, do we?
No, that is still ongoing, so I followed up with our engineers last week and they can only push so hard because we don't want to push so hard that they push back.
So as the very soonest that would be done would be the fall.
Yes,
and the
it would have to be
water-
done in the fall anyways, just for
Yeah.
water levels.
Yeah, so really, well, I guess where I'm coming from, we don't need to borrow that money right away because we're not going to be, do you think we'll get the one at Redstone done this year?
We can, yep.
You can?
Yep.
That's just a bridge replacement?
Yep.
And then we're gonna take the one we got at Coxsong and just put it in storage?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. But if we had to, we could leave it there because it's serving the purpose for a year.
It's serving the purpose. My concern is my comfort level is kind of come and gone on leaving it there any longer without adding some roadside barrier on the approaches.
Okay.
which is gonna cost money. I'm ballparking 80,000 for barrier on it, so.
So another quick question on that, Rob, then what
But I
about,
I had my hand up there. Could I have say something?
Yeah,
very
oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't see you, Walt.
So what you're saying here, Murray, is that, and Barb, is that if we accept this 6.48 and taking the money out of here and there, it's going to be basically the same next year.
Yeah.
Same increase. And also, we keep all the road work that Rob put into the budget for this year and fixing bridges, correct?
Yeah, that's adopting what he's put forward here.
So we wouldn't be taking anything out. And then next year, we could put in the same amount into the roads again,
That's right, and I think,
which would really get us caught up. I think I'm not speaking for Rob, but I think that's pretty good projections for us to get caught up on some roads that need to be fixed. So I think this is a pretty good deal. That's my opinion.
Rob, a quick question. Can you stay ahead on the ditching and that kind of stuff? Is all that going to be, I know some of it was done last year, but we're in good shape so that we can surface these roads and,
For the ditching, yes, we can stay ahead as of now. Basically, we can take on, I'm gonna say 10 to 15 kilometers of ditching every year. Anything outside of that, we're gonna be looking at contracted services.
so if we know that Kinesis got to be done next year, Wilkinson, well, that'll be ditched this year then? Or-
Yes, once we get done our 2024 program, we'll move on to 2025.
Yeah, because that's a big job.
Yeah.
That's gonna take a lot of money. Derek?
on the bridge deal there, Rob, so on the Redstone Bridge, we don't need our temporary bridge in that we got at Coshlong to do the repairs there or not?
For the Redstone Brook Bridge?
Yeah.
No, that'll be a full road closure. I mean, right now it can take full highway loading.
Yeah.
But it was recommended 2 years ago to replace the structure in 1 to 5 years. So we've completed the feasibility study on that and the costing. So all we have to do now is do detailed design and tender.
Okay, so then we can just close the road down because we got access from both ends and, okay, gotcha. All right.
Not so much on Coshlong. That's
Yeah, that's a little different
that's the issue.
situation. Yeah,
That's the
sure.
issue.
That's really bad
So
there.
I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have to have that bridge that we got sitting at so actually, if we don't get this approval for the culvert situation, then we can go to the Redstone one first then, is that what,
Yes, yeah.
okay,
It wouldn't surprise me if the Redstone gets replaced before Coshlong.
okay.
It's probably going to cost quite a bit of money to move that bridge. And where are we going to put it?
Yeah,
In the
I
yard
figured
or-
100,000.
So the next one is the Green Lake Bridge then. Is that the next bridge we have coming after Redstone?
That is the Green Lake. That's the Redstone Brook Bridge on Green Lake
Oh,
Road.
okay.
Yeah. And then there's also Berry Line is on the horizon. Pila River's on the horizon. So those are the ones that are kind of on the top of my list.
So do you think there's a bridge coming every year then?
Yeah, you're nearing a bridge every year for the next several years.
Mhm.
Not to mention the footbridges in the park.
Yeah. Well, we looked at something yesterday. Maybe we can get some help with that one in the park.
That would be good.
Yeah.
You asked him about where the bridge was going that's coming out. It's going into storage. Is it possible we could lease it out? If the opportunity arose?
I mean, the opportunity's there, but what if we need it? That's the thing.
But it could sit there for years.
It could. Since I've been here, we've rented a bridge 3 times. So you either need them or you don't, right?
I think with the amount of bridges and their termination of lifespan, it'll be busy in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I think you're right, Pat.
Yeah, most of our bridges were built prior to the bridge code, so they weren't built for the trucks that are going over top of them now, so.
Okay. I think that's long-term borrowing then, the bridges. Well, I just trying to get my head around if we have to borrow for 2 now and we need one every year. And I mean, the longer we wait to borrow the money, more likely the interest rates are going to back off. Even a percentage is a big point. Are we just going to be back into borrowing again? Every year? Like, I don't know where this is going to end.
I think, how many bridges, Rob, roughly, do you think we got?
You got about 20 bridges.
Times 2 is 40 million
Yeah,
over 10 years.
yeah.
I mean, the good news is the newer bridges have a lifespan of 75 years, so we're paying over 40, but they're still good for another 35 after that, but
Yeah.
that's looking quite a ways out.
But I'm just, what am I trying to get my head around, and I want council to think about. Should we borrow enough for 3 bridges when we're borrowing? That's all, if we can get the rate to go down a bit.
Mhm.
And I know Barbara's meeting, bank people. Barb, when are you meeting the bank, this week?
Over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. And try and make arrangements so that we can borrow for, like, right now, we can borrow probably at 4.5 from the bank, I'm hoping. And if we can borrow for 6 months or a year until we see what's happening with the rates. It's a big deal if the rates go, if the Bank of Canada drop the rates 0.5 point even, it's a big deal when you're borrowing for 40 years. On $3 or $4 million.
2026 is when they'll really come down.
Well, I like,
Trudeau's out, hopefully.
well, if he isn't, we're in real trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope they do come down.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody in private enterprise hopes they come down too.
Absolutely.
It's painful right now. It's pretty hard to get by. So next year on construction, it's predominantly Wilkinson Drive, but what else are you thinking about? Because you got quite a bit of money in that construction budget there now.
Yeah, up in that area, you're looking at Wilkinson, you're looking at Watts Trail, Redken is certainly on the hit list. Mountain Street, I mean, I would say those are the ones nearest the top for me.
Yeah, and we're probably gonna have to do something with the road coming into town here in a year or two, too. It's starting to break up.
Yeah, I'm gonna hopefully, not next year, but in the next few years, maybe do a little more preservation on that before we're into reconstruction.
Oh, Rob, is there any way we could or should defer, like we get $1 million into there, or I think we maybe just talked about that, about your equipment purchases, whether we
Yeah.
defer one truck, but that's coming out of a different pool anyways, is that correct?
Yeah, it's coming out of the reserve. And if we push it off, it just means we're gonna be asking for one more thing next year.
Got it.
So,
That's kind of hard to win, isn't it?
Funny jumps.
You know, the problem is everything's jumped so much, like trucks are 25% more than they were,
oh, more than that.
maybe 30 or 35%,
Yeah,
maybe.
35, 40, 45.
Well, these bridge repairs are a decent amount of what we're talking about here today, and
Yeah.
I don't see that coming to a close anytime soon on that note.
No.
It's just unfortunate that we're in a perfect storm where taxes are up, everything's up. On
Everything's
the
up.
same note, then we have to do these large capital projects. We have to.
We have to do it.
So we're, anyways.
If we can get it done with the least pain, that's what we're trying to do here. So. Okay,
Okay, did you want to continue on with the presentation?
yeah, if you've got more to add, sure, we want to hear it all.
Yeah, yeah, we've got a few more slides, but all good discussion. So I'll go back to sharing my screen. Okay, so we just touch on the commercial tax rate here. This presentation here is representing the 12.71%. Obviously, if we're looking at 6.48, that will come down. So just looking at the trend line for the levy increase over the last 6 years, if you consider under 2024, the green bar is reflecting 12.71%. The blue bar is reflecting the 6.48%. So we're still up considerably over last year. But if we look at dropping the tax rate, that will come down. And again, just a reminder that we're still working with the 2016 CV assessment.
I don't know whether we asked at the last meeting, but the money that we've got on long-term debt now, or on debt, like I know we bought that gravel pit on the Irish line and we borrowed for that. I couldn't believe we did, but we did. And the 2016 CV assessment, the money that we've got in on long-term debt now, or on debt, like I know we bought that gravel pit on the Irish line and we borrowed for that. I couldn't believe we did, but we did. And the money So what are those rates like? Are they good rates or is there some way to combine them and just have one? I don't know, there's a bunch of little ones there, like 25,000 and stuff. I don't know why we wouldn't get rid of those. Did you have a look at that, Barb?
Yeah, well, those rates are very competitive compared to today.
Okay.
I don't have the exact rates in front of me, but I did look at that and definitely it would be my recommendation to continue with those. They are at competitive rates. They're active now for 4 or 5 years, so rates were very favorable
And those are
back
built in
then.
naturally, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I believe they would be less in today's rate. I just sometimes I wondered about some of them, but anyway, okay.
Okay. So looking at funding our municipal expenditures, total expenditures for capital and operating budgets for 2024 is just over $24.2 million. And so the tax levy is going to fund 52.3% of those expenditures. Obviously, that will drop if we look at the 6.48% increase, and that drop would be 49.4%. And again, our OMPF funding, that's a large grant that we rely on for the municipal operations, the $1.8 million.
I should say that at the county on Tuesday or Wednesday, we did get a kind of an idea that the county tax rate is going to be up considerably too. So taxpayers here are going to pick that up as well. So that was part of the rationale to hold the line a little bit here.
Any idea of the percentage?
No, I don't yet, but it's not good. I know that. It's like, I think they're looking at around 10 to start with, and nobody's going to agree to that. So we're going to get it down some, but again, that's pretty easy in those cases because it's pretty easy to pull off shorten the length of pavement or something you're doing on a road, and it's not easy, but I don't think there's any bridges there next year. They've done a lot of bridges. So, but it is going to impact our taxes too. No, I tried to get that number, but I wasn't successful.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Barb, how far behind are MPAC in doing their assessments? Like from the time we've closed out our building file and they've got their certificate of occupancy, is there an average time frame from when MPAC is doing the assessment on those properties?
Actually, they're very current. Their inspections are very current. We do meet with them on a quarterly basis, and I don't have the statistics in front of us, but it is, they're actively following the files and closing out permits in a timely manner.
And are those on new builds or complete all the permits, like additions and everything?
So the assessment would be on completed builds where they grant occupancy. And what they do for the new permits that get circulated, they process those through their system, and then they prepare a forecast for the municipality based on those permits in terms of the growth assessment for the year.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't know if when we're ever going to get reassessment, not until after the provincial election, I guess. Such a mess.
Okay, so moving on.
Yeah.
We have here just a graphic view of our sources of funding. And again, if we look at dropping the rate to 6.48%, you'll see the property taxation bar will slide back to about the 12 million mark. However, you're going to see the other non-tax bar move to about $9.4 million.
So
This is reflecting the 12.71%.
right, so the OMPF funding is down then, is it?
Actually, that's, that there is, a little bit of an uptick from last year.
Okay, good.
Yeah. It's the one component, the Northern Rural Fiscal, calculation that gives us an advantage in that calculation. So just looking at federal grants here, since our last meeting, we actually got the confirmation from the Canada Community Build Fund. We'll be getting $225,800. The original first draft budget was looking at $207,830. So we have recognized the additional grant revenue of $17,970. And that's been channeled to roads construction projects.
It's already looked after then.
Yeah. And so our long-term borrowing, a little bit of a change here. The second draft budget has removed the purchase of the backhoe loader. That there has reduced the amount of debt that we're going to be taking on. And it also reduces the repayment. There's the actual cash event to purchase the equipment, and then the debt repayment is just the annual repayment that we've removed from the budget. But that comes from the vehicle and equipment reserve funds. So the net impact on the levy is zero, but the principal portion we've removed from our debt is $250,000. The annual repayment is $23,590. That's been removed.
If you didn't explain that and you looked at it, it looks like 25% of our budget's going to debt repayment.
Yeah.
That's gonna be confusing for people looking at it if they don't understand that.
Right. And so the total debt the repayment on our debt is $840,915. And so that's broken out between third-party financing of $407,000, and then the balance of internal loans for $433,000.
Yeah.
So then the other source of funding is our reserve balances. And here we're looking at the primary reserve funds being our development reserve, our parkland, parking meter, and cash in lieu of parking. So here we're looking at a net increase of decrease of 23,000 at 12.71. But if we look at bringing it down to the 6.48, that net decrease would include the $250,000 for additional road work. So that number would then be $273,000. And then a deeper dive on our core infrastructure under the Development Reserve Fund. Big year, a draw on the vehicles for infrastructure projects. The 250 is now going to be $500,000 if we go withdrawing the additional funds from the reserves. So again, that there would drop the balance at 2024 down to about 4.4 million from the 4.7 million. So again, looking at 2024, the green bar is reflecting 12.71. The blue bar is reflecting 6.48. Just to recap on our capital projects, we're looking at just over 7 million. That's come down 250,000 because we've removed the backhoe loader. And so there's been a redistribution on the the asset classes here. The main reduction here dollar-wise is originally we had an increase of just over 200,000. That now is dropped to a decrease of 2,500 when you take a look at vehicle purchases from 2023 to 2022 or 24. Again, just a visual picture here. We can see
So you're assuming we're paying for all the 3 trucks this year?
that's correct. If we take delivery.
Yeah, and if we don't, that'll change, that number will change.
Yeah, the money will just stay in the reserve. And then as Rob had mentioned, then, you know, the ask would come in a future year, most likely next year.
After we put the 250 back.
Right.
No, so it won't be as painful. Okay.
So here, looking at our capital expenditures, obviously with the 2 bridges, we're looking at well over 2.5 million. And again, roads construction, we're looking at 2.3 million. So definitely some big numbers here for our infrastructure projects. And again, I just wanted to point out here the shift in funding. We've decreased down to the just over the 7 million for the 250,000 on the backhoe loader. And if we do go ahead with bringing in another 250 from the roads reserve fund, the draw on municipal property taxation will drop to 300,000. And that would be about 2.67% on the levy. That's actually funding the capital expenditures. So again, here, this is representing the 12.71. However, if we do go withdrawing from additional reserves, you'll see the green bar under municipal reserves move forward by 700 or 250,000, and then property taxation retract by the 250,000. So this is just an overview of all expenditures, capital and operating. And again, you can see here the large investment the municipality is making in our transportation department, and that there is a combination of our roads and our equipment and our bridges. So I'm just going to touch on a couple of other changes in some of the other departments. The second draft considers building revenue increase of 100,000, and that is a combination of increased permit fee and volume. And likewise, we've taken out the draw on the deferred revenue that was presented in the first budget. That was 100,000. So the net impact on the revenue under the building department is 0. However, under septic permit revenue, we're looking at increasing that $15,000, and that's based on increased volume and looking at the trend from 2023.
Did Pat and Barry met with Carl on that was about methodology of inspections. Is that what that wasn't to do with money at all?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was a good meeting?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. No, we expect, we didn't talk about any increases in price, right? We were just volume. Yeah.
Process.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're doing less inspections this year?
Yeah, half, I believe. It's
Yeah.
500, I think, from 1,000, but it's
Yeah.
over east, Tammy's way.
Yeah, it's all hardcore park area.
Boy, it's going to be a lot of
Yeah.
problems over there.
We're problematic.
Your phone will be ringing.
Okay, and then looking to the environment, the second draft has removed the Orange Box program. The net reduction on the levy is $4,400. So the original budget had $6,600 for expense and $1,200 for revenue. And under recreation and culture, we've decreased the cost of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So we do have 30,000 in reserves that was pulled originally. The net impact on the levy is 0 for this project. And so under planning, we're looking at an aggregate increase of planning revenue of $18,700. And it's broken out by different revenue streams here. And the Director of Planning and Land Information will elaborate on that.
If the cottage rental goes ahead as planned, and if you are renting your cottage and any portion of it is on the original road allowance, you're either gonna have to buy the road allowance or get a license of occupation. And there's $500 a crack, so I can see that the revenue going way up. Cause that's what people will do. So there'll be a lot of applications for license of occupation, I think. I'd say
Okay,
half of them are on the road allowance.
So Marie, is that either or do you
Yes,
know? where you-
either or,
So licensed occupation or
buy it.
I got it.
And the problem with buying it, take a year and a half to buy it. Time you get the survey and legal and,
The process.
yeah, the process.
There'll be a flood of them too,
So people will go the cheaper way, I think.
I would think.
But the license of occupation, sorry, is $500?
Yes, that's what
year.
we're charging now, yeah, per year,
Per year.
per year.
Okay, and just to close out the finance portion of the presentation, just a little bit of a picture here to show our top 3 areas of services and where our budget dollars are being channeled. So we have transportation, environment, and protective services that represent 77% of the municipal budget.
Rob's a big spender, isn't he?
He's eating most of the pie here. I know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so
Well, unfortunately, that's what it's gotta be done.
Barb, just, I don't know if you can, in rough numbers, I'm kind of back to that bridge, math again. Take 2.5 million over 40 years with a 6% interest rate. Any idea in a ballpark monthly payment that might be?
actually, there is a
Sorry, but you have-
schedule in the package that provides you the debt repayment. If you reference Schedule F, that will give you the detail on how the debt repayment has been calculated for the 2024 budget. I just don't have that with me at the moment.
Yeah, and with no offense, we can talk about that later. I just want to
Yeah.
know, you know, if we're compounding over 20 bridges over a short amount of time, what we're looking at in, 3 to 4 to 5, 6 years or something.
Right, yeah, we can run those numbers, definitely.
Okay. That's all I have.
It adds up, doesn't it?
Shows appendix. Definitely.
Okay, so we do have another presenter, and Jeff would like to just present some of the changes to the planning budget. So if we can bring Jeff in and continue with the presentation.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good, Jeff.
Good, thank you. I didn't really realize I was going to be the only one presenting today, so I'm going to try and keep this quick. Barbara already touched on the proposed $18,700 increase in revenues, which is based on increasing the application numbers. So I'm not going to go into too much detail in that. What I will say is, historically, due to the uncertainty in the number of applications received, when preparing the budget, I always go in with a conservative approach and base it on a 3-year average of application numbers. Having said that, last year we did end up using a 2-year average of application numbers, which increased the revenues. And we still did achieve those targeted numbers. So that's what I'm doing again. I am proposing revenues based on a 2-year average. So unless you have any questions about that, we could probably skip right to slide 5 and I can break down the Cultural Resources Committee budget.
Yeah, I think we should.
I have a quick question for Jeff.
Okay.
For the planning revenue increase, are our fees in line with the other municipalities in the county?
Yes, so if you may recall, through the county service delivery review process, there was one of the items that we tried to achieve was having the same fees across all 4 lower tiers. So we basically have identical fee structures.
Everybody's.
Thank you.
That's right. So we should all have the same fee structures.
Okay, Jeff, so you've answered that. Let's go move on.
Okay, so yeah, moving on to Cultural Resources Committee, the total request is approximately $13,300 for this year. Last month, council did ask for more details regarding their budget breakdown, which I can show you on the next slide. So as mentioned last month, they are looking at redoing the cultural plan, and $10,000 is allocated towards the update of the plan. This fee will be used for project coordination. $5,000 is allocated.
Then, Jeff?
Pardon me?
Is that a consultant or are they doing that themselves?
I did not ask them, but it sounds like they're looking for a project coordinator that would guide them through it. So I'm thinking it's a consultant. I can find that out for sure for you.
Okay.
They're also looking to dedicate $5,000 towards the dedication of public space. And I think the council's seen this before, but it includes signage or a plaque, consultation with elders, as well as costs towards a ceremony. $1,500 is proposed to be allocated towards a public art project in Eagle Lake. And then the last 3 items on the list are fairly standard expenses from year to year for the functions of the committee. Do you have any questions about this breakdown? Okay, next slide.
Walt had a question.
Walt has a question.
Okay.
Yeah. Explain to me the culture plan.
Explain to you the cultural plan.
Yeah.
So the cultural plan, it's a plan that the municipality put in place just over 10 years ago. It has run its life cycle. Within that plan, there was lots of short, medium, and long-term goals that were, I guess, when they came up with the plan, they set those goals to be achieved over that 10-year cycle. And that's what the cultural plan or the cultural committee has been doing for the last 10 years, is trying to achieve those goals that are outlined in that plan.
Didn't we just do a strategic planning for DICE?
Strategic.
Well, why wouldn't they be rolled into the same, all done at the same time?
The cultural is very specific to the cultural assets and programming and so forth.
Something we could wait to do next year. Wouldn't it? My own opinion.
So needless to say, we get a say in what the cultural plan is, correct?
Council was very involved in the development of the first cultural plan. It was run through the planning department at that time. It was a council approved plan.
I know, and when you say it quick, $10,000 isn't a lot of money, but I think in this day and age, it's really a lot of money, and I'm just questioning that at this time. And we have a lot of expenses coming up here, and I'd like us to take a hard look at that, because to me, like Murray just said, why can't we be maybe be more involved and kind of save $10,000 this year?
Sorry, is that a question for me?
I don't know, I'm just asking, I'm just trying to,
Somebody.
like to me, you're saying, here's $10,000. Well, to me, that's a lot of money.
You have two options.
I'm the only one who thinks that way. I'll just be quiet, but that's just the way I think. Sorry. At this time in what's going on in the world and money, and so many people wanting things and needs a cultural
Yes.
plan.
Two options, Walt, whether we defer it till next year and then revisit it, or like if Jeff's got a pile on his plate now and it falls into his hands, whether he's gonna have time enough to stick handle it. So that's,
It doesn't fall within Jeff's
No?
department anymore. It's just traditionally when it first started, it fell within the planning department.
got
So
it.
the budget line's in there, so ends up reporting.
Well,
on
you're
it,
off the
but
hook, Jeff.
He's off the hook in terms of managing the project.
Right. Well, to me, if, if the mandate of culture committee is also to maintain our art and these other functions in Halliburton, my own opinion would be, by saying it with Walt, is just maybe defer it for 1 year and we revisit it next year and we just maintain our service levels now with what we have and.
Just carry on the plan that we have now.
Correct.
And look at it next year.
Right.
Is that a consensus? Okay, then that's what we're gonna do, Jeff. And we still need to know whether, down the road it's a consultant or whether they're just gonna hire somebody from the community.
Yep, I will look into that. And what I'll do is also share a copy of the plan with the council members, because
Well, that'd be
it
good.
does outline the tasks. And if you see the stuff that the committee's completed over the last 10 years, it's quite substantial. So I know the plan itself might not seem like the greatest idea to council, but if you really see what they've achieved over 10 years, they've done a lot. So I will share that with everybody and I will get more details with regards
And
to.
I
the
think that's
consultant.
good to share that.
Yep.
I just have a question as well for Jeff. And it's a little amount, but the cultural managers meeting for 750, what does that entail? Like, who is that? And why does it cost $750?
That's a good question. It's something I might come back with. They do get together with other cultural managers within the area. And I think the cost is towards hosting. But I will come back with more details on that.
Okay, so you know what we're doing there?
Yep.
Okay. Anything else from you, Jeff?
No, that's it. And just to summarize it also, with the $18,700 that we achieved in savings or in increased revenues, it brings down the overall budget to about 7.5% increase, or $32,000 approximately.
And I was saying earlier, you're going to get a lot of license of occupations probably if when the shoreline bylaw goes through.
Yes, that's certainly an option. It would be a good way to protect the municipality from liability.
Yeah, it's the only way to protect us. Anyway, that probably will shoot that revenue up quite a bit. Hopefully. Be a pleasant surprise. Anything, okay, we good with Jeff then? Good.
Thank you.
So that ends the presentation, and so we'll open the floor up to council for their discussion and feedback on next steps.
Anybody want to step up first? Todd, I'm looking at you.
And again, I'm jumping around a little bit, but is there any, I've been looking through, the last little bit, but is there any more detail on our landfill numbers? I think last year John's been doing a great job. I think the canceling the orange box is a good idea. And there's also been savings in regards to new C&D waste haulage and stuff like that. But I just wanted to have a look at that in a bit more detail. I don't know if I've seen it in here. I've been looking, but anyway. Well, it's not something we can do just this very second, but I think I wouldn't mind seeing that in a bit more detail. If not now, a little later. For
Yeah,
sure.
but we need to definitely look at it for sure.
Yeah.
I have a question for Barb.
Yeah. Yes,
When I was going through the line by line for the fire department for the other revenue, where does all that come from? Does that come from like doing the billing when there's like accidents on the provincial highway? Let's take a quick look here.
So other revenue, they've got their fees and permits, which is through any revenue for accidents, building permits. And then they have other revenue, which is contribution from own funds, which is drawing money from a reserve fund. And in this particular case here, they're drawing from a project carry forward. If I understand, you're looking at the 25,000. That's a combination of drawing from the for the fire master plan that straddles 2 years. And so we're bringing in the portion that we've set aside for 2023. And then one project we're carrying over for the dry hydrant at the dock.
Yeah, that partly answers it, but there's the MTO billing for accidents and safe restart grant. Do we have a way to track how much we're collecting on the billing from the MTO?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It just looked like a low number for last year.
Last year actual?
The fiscal year, December 2023, it was.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's dependent on the number of calls the fire department responds to on the provincial highway. The MTO billing is under provincial grants, which is low. You're right. For 2023.
I think we just need to really aggressively pursue those because it is expensive when, 3 or 4 trucks respond. And they're there for an hour or two, even if they're doing traffic control under the direction of the OPP, that we should be recouping that. That just seems like a very low number.
No, I agree with you, Nancy. It does seem low. I'm sure there would be more than 1 or 2 times we're out doing that.
Well, it's been more than a few times so far just in the last couple months, so.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll make a note to review that and make sure that we're capturing the revenue.
Okay. All right.
I'll have a comment, Murray.
Yeah.
Like, I've been through a lot of budgets, and this is just my opinion. And needless to say, we're a council, we're a team. But I think, like, I'm not trying to pick on whether it's the culture committee or whatever. It's not. It's just I think our whole every department, all of us have got to realize that there's a lot of needs out there in our community. And some people say, I've heard in the last couple of days, different opinions. Well, raise taxes up, like make them 10, 15%. Who cares? Well, I represent Dysart like we all do. And majority of the people can't afford that. And that's what we're supposed to try to take care of, is the majority of the people. So I think this budget is very fair for everybody because we're getting a lot of roads completed. But I just think that we're coming out of COVID times here. I'm tired of the excuse COVID. And I think it's just a time that all of us have got to become more accountable to the taxpayers, because we're the one who budgets all this money. And it's a lot of money, and there's a lot of needs out there. So thanks for your time.
So are you taking a position then on the 6.48 or whatever it is?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Is everybody okay with that, to keep the program, the roads the same? We either do it now or do it later.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I worry about, is that I don't think we can take away from the roads, no. It could, because we'll never catch up. And we're behind likely from not just
Spending
4
enough on
years
roads.
ago, we're
Yeah,
from behind from 25 years ago.
Exactly.
And the pandemic, yeah, it created a little bit of a mess for us, no doubt about it, but no, I don't want to take a step back on that. And our bridges situation, that's a no brainer. We have to, there's nothing we can get around that. So anyway, yeah.
You're good with that?
Yeah, the road, especially the roads part, yes.
It doesn't mean that the budget, if we accept that percentage, doesn't mean we still shouldn't be looking for other things. You know, as we move on here.
Absolutely. I think sometimes and I could be totally off base. Sometimes I don't think we go enough for the grant monies and stuff here and there. I just have that feeling, and maybe I'm totally wrong on that. But I'd really want us to kind of press a little bit harder and all that.
Understand it and see if there's efficiencies. That's what we need to do everywhere. I think. Yeah, Nancy?
I just have another question under the museum revenue and expense. With Steve announcing his retirement, is that going to change that figure in the museum expense as far as wages and benefits?
Well, there's 2 or 3 things going on there. I did have Tamara check with Kate. She's qualified to still get the provincial grant, but I think there's some strings attached to the provincial grant that you have to be open 52 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
So there's 2 or 3 ways of doing that. And if we go out and ask for a qualified curator or whatever, that's going to change the numbers. You're right. But if we do some part-time stuff, I don't know that what the provincial grant is. That's one of the things we need to look at. If the provincial grant isn't enough to justify being open when there's nobody going through there day after day in the wintertime, then we should look at whether or not we need that provincial grant. It might be costing us money to get it.
Could we record Steve's voice and just play it at the door, maybe?
Absolutely perfect. Good idea.
He knows the history better than most people. Anyway.
Yeah. But there is some things to look at in that budget.
They're not gonna get any lower though from what they are. We've got the full replacement value in to replace Steve.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Yeah. Would that person come in at the same salary that he was on or lower or?
No, they'd be the same salary.
I don't know if we touched on this in the past, but in regards to this grants, looking for grants and everything else, is there a hotline or is there a broadcast spectrum that's that the
We
province or federal?
We basically get emailed the different departments depending on what our focuses are, any opportunities that come out, whether we're getting them directly from the government or the grant sources or from companies that specialize in trying as consultants getting you grants. So typically if it's something that matches the kind of things that are in our strategic plans or things like that, or we know you're interested in from talking to you, we flag them and look into them, see if we meet the qualifications, and then we typically would bring something forward. We've got about 30 grants on the go right now in a variety of sizes and capacities, and there's a lot of work to administering. Some of them, as Murray mentioned, some aren't worth even administering because they're too much paperwork to do, but we do actively pursue wherever we can, wherever there's council direction to do it. A lot of them have a lot of seed money required too, so it takes a lot of forward planning to make sure councils, say for instance, you wanted to do something specific with a bridge and we knew it was ready and it qualified for a grant. Those are the kind of things we would bring, but we'd need that council. It's part of that strategic visioning as well to know what councils got in their purview so that we're constantly looking for things that match those things.
So is it up to the department heads then to keep an eye out on their information channels, or is it part of the?
We all do. I typically get
Part of-
everything the department heads get too. So if I get something, I'll ship it out to the department heads. Is this something matches what you're trying to achieve? And then if it is, we'd bring it to you. We'd work through Jennifer to do the applications and follow up.
I think instead of making it a two-part process, whether we as council coming up here say, listen, these are the 8 things we need, whether it's roads and infrastructure, parks or cultural or arena or whatever it is, give the list. That way it doesn't turn into a tennis match to say, hey, this is coming up, council, what do you think? And then we've lost 4 months in between and maybe lost the gap on the grant, but
Yeah.
I think the grant is another, the grant process is another way to ease the burden of, especially in a bridge, I would say the bridge application as an example.
When you're looking at the big ones like that, though, you do need to be shovel ready because there's no time to vision about it after the grant's announced. So things like having your bridge designs ready, or at least having a plan to get them done quickly, like could use the Head Lake Park Bridge for an example. If we can get the design ready this year, then we'll be in a really good position as soon as whether it's an enabling accessibility or another infrastructure grant comes out, we'll be able, as long as council concurs with that's a priority, we'll be able to go and get that grant work put in.
Is that bridge the steel one or the wooden trestle bridge?
The big, the curve, the big one.
We have to replace that?
Over the rail.
Why is it rotten?
Yep, underneath.
Oh, really? All right.
So things like that, but yeah, we're actively monitoring all the grants and we definitely get notified of everything and.
Well, for instance, the cultural committee, we spent some time on that. To me, that's a simple grant to get from Trillium, probably to do a cultural plan. Get it at 100%. So I think that's the kind of thing that.
So a question for Rob then, like on the bridges, say, your engineering and all that stuff pretty much in place already?
Well, for the Kosh Long, as we all know, we're still kind of in talks to decide whether we can do culverts versus clear span bridge. So that's ongoing. The first part of the Redstone Brook Bridge is complete, the feasibility. So what we have to do now is basically do the detailed design. So what you'll see on that bridge, after we did the feasibility study, the hydraulics indicated that we had to raise it. Because during the floods of 2013, we actually had water pushing on the bridge deck. So we did the study to figure out, do we have to raise it? Can we do culverts? Culverts didn't work in that instance because it would overtop the road anyways. So they're saying we got to do clear span bridge. That's a little higher. So that's the lion's share of it. The detailed design is kind of pretty straightforward after that.
Yeah.
I will caution on getting too far ahead of yourself because we got caught on the Oblong Narrows Bridge. Is we did exactly what we were talking about is we got a project that was shovel ready so we could apply to the OCIF at the time. Well, by the time we were able to apply again, they had changed the bridge code. So we had to review that and go through the drawings and update the drawings again and then apply for it. We ended up getting it eventually. But that sat on a shelf for years before we were able to actually pull the trigger on it.
Right.
So that answers the question. We have to be shovel ready to get the grant. But I agree with Pat. I think if we have a list of those things that we desperately know we need, we should go after those if they're available, for sure. So I think they're all nearly all capital projects. It's the same as the environment. I don't know what's out there for processing at some of the landfills, but you'd think there'd be money out there, wouldn't you?
I would think so, but as another fork in the road too, like infrastructure, like bridges, but not only that, like we got sewage treatment plants gonna be another one coming up.
Yeah.
In the headlights, and if we can get a nice grant for it,
It'd reduce our overall, yeah.
oh man, and as you mentioned, other ones like cultural committee, but anyway, so I think next council meeting, it might be wise to have a detailed chat about what we're wanting to do.
Okay, fair enough.
Then I will touch on bridges just once more. So since I've been here, we've actually found 2 bridges in our network that we weren't aware of. So it does happen and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again, but it's a nice little presence from time to time that, oh, here, by the way, you have a bridge and you have to replace it. So.
You're right, full of good news, aren't you? Somebody's got to say it, right? Well, it's bridges are a concern everywhere. They're expensive. So any other comments? You heard what Walt thinks. Basically, Barry, you don't want to touch the construction, so are you,
No, I don't, I'm just worried about getting way behind and, well, not even way behind, even a little bit behind is tough to make up, so.
Well, you're really gonna have to bump things in to get
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Like Pat said, if you either do it now or you do it later, and it's not gonna be cheaper later, that's for sure, the way things are going. Okay, so are we happy with that then, to go ahead that way, or? No, I don't think we're happy, but what choice do we have?
Well, Murray, I think compared to all the other townships, not too far from us, that's a pretty good compromise for what everybody else is gonna have to pay.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's around the 10%,
Yeah.
give or take very little. If we can keep it under that, we've done a lot better and a lot more
Yeah,
municipalities.
and we may be at 10 when you put the county on it.
Yeah.
So. I'm not sure, because they've got the same issue going on that we do with resurfacing and equipment. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
And we don't have Olivia Chow to cry for us. Tammy, are you okay with that? That's okay. Nancy, you okay with that, moving forward there? So we know in principle what we're trying to do here, so it's just a matter of fine tuning some of the other areas that we need to look at and come up with a list of priorities for grants. Okay?
Murray, can I just ask Rob a question, please?
Yeah.
So like this year's rate will also be next year's rate, you're saying? And Rob, are you happy with the amount of money that'll be in the budget next year for your department? I know you'd always like to fix more, but
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as the capital resurfacing, that works for me. Obviously, it's more than what we had kind of committed to in the asset management plan. So it's over and above what we said we'd do. So to me, that's all good news.
so that's a positive then.
That's a positive. What I will say is we were in pretty decent shape really up until this spring. With the way the asset management plan was working in our resurfacing program. It was this spring, the roads hit pretty hard. And that was my fear for years. You know, those that have been here, I've been saying it every year. It takes one spring to set us back years and years and years. And it happened in 2023. And, you know, I'm a little cautious that it may not happen again in 2024, looking at the way the weather's coming in. And I mean, the road basins are saturated now, and at some point they're going to freeze and try and thaw out again. So, but yeah, to answer your question somewhat quickly, I think we'll be in good shape resurfacing moving forward. You're going to see me back here again, probably late summer, early fall, to kind of restructure how we release these tenders for resurfacing. Maybe investigate kind of the structure itself, and maybe longer term contracts, do multi-year tied to CPI. So.
Another quick question for you, Rob. Our winter budget this year. Who knows? But as of right now, we're just normal, or are we, because of the weather conditions, are we gaining a little bit there or not?
You're gaining a little bit, but as I said, you're probably going to pay for it in the spring.
Right.
So whatever we save in winter maintenance, you're going to spend in patching.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Haven't you heard it's gonna get warm again in February and take all the snow? That's what I hear.
It could very well, and could get cold again till the middle of April. Who
Yeah,
knows?
or May.
Or May, yeah.
Okay, so I guess we're ready for, is there anything else we need to add? I don't want to rush you on this.
So
I think we've all had a pretty good discussion, it's worthwhile. So what about, we have a resolution then, Mallory, on the budget presentation?
Yeah, would you like to have another budget meeting, or would you like to approve the budget at 6.48%?
Well, we can approve it in principle, I think.
Well, we can bring the budget bylaws back to the January council meeting if you're good with it
Yeah.
now.
Well, we-
And that would mean no budget meeting in February.
That's right.
Or if council's comfortable, so that's a discussion for council to have, because if we want that, then I can have that resolution ready.
Well, I just don't want it to fall right off the table and not get discussed in other areas. So I want to make sure that it won't affect the overall budget, but
That's what I was gonna say. Are the discussions you're having gonna change the budget for this year?
well, it could, but if we can find some savings, it's not gonna change the percentage any amount. So let's leave the percentage and see if we can get build a surplus and be more efficient, that's all. So are we all right with that? Okay,
So we'll bring the budget bylaws forward then?
Yep.
Okay.
So I've got a resolution for that. So be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the second draft of the municipality of Dysart et al. 2024 budget. And for the direct staff to bring forward the bylaw to adopt the 2024 budget to the January 23rd, 2024 meeting of regular council based on council direction.
okay, mover and seconder. Carm and Pat, all in favor? Carried. Okay,
Excuse me, Ori, I'm gonna be at Roma on Tuesday that morning. I'm just wondering, I could do a Zoom first thing in the morning, because I don't think the meetings I've looked at where I'm gonna be going to on Tuesday morning is not till around close to 10 o'clock. So could we, if we're gonna pass something, I'd just like to be, I'll be on Zoom, but I'd like to be a part of it.
okay, so.
Like we're
what you're
finalizing the,
asking us to do is to do that first thing then.
that would be great if I could, please. Yeah. If that was possible.
Okay, we'll put it as an item before, we'll just do it quickly before public meeting. I don't assume that we're gonna have a lot of discussion, right?
Well, you never want to assume anything.
Public meeting has been advertised as starting at 9:05 a.m. So
Yeah,
it
okay.
just depends on how long we want to talk about it, that's all.
Well, he just wants to be part of it, that's all.
All right, that's fine. We'll put it first thing and
Yeah.
get it passed.
Okay. we-
So
Thank
I
you.
read the
Thank you.
resolution. Yeah, no problem. Did we have a mover and a seconder for that?
Yeah, we did, I thought, but we'll do it again. I think I thought
Okay.
Carm put his hand up. And Pat, yeah, Carm and Pat.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one is, we have a resolution on resurfacing. Rob?
Yes, so I've presented a report here. The contractor of the 2023 work, Miller Paving, has asked for an extension, a one-year extension, which is written into the 2023 agreement. What I'm suggesting here is we do extend with them for the roads listed in the appendix. The total cost for them will be about $1.3 million. Their unit costs have increased about 15% over last year. I will put a caveat in there that we had very, very good pricing in 2023. And this 15% kind of brings it up in line to where I thought it would have been last year. So to me, I think we're still ahead of the game. And they're also still about 20% lower than the number 2 bidder last year for the same type of work. So I think if we do this one-year extension, that'll get us in good shape to maybe, as I said, maybe restructure the way we do our capital works and do multi-year agreements and maybe get that pricing down a hair more. So the numbers that you see here do take into account the $2.3 million that we had spoken about. So of that 1.3 is going to go to surface treatment works. I'm proposing to do about $750,000 worth of cold laid asphalt, similar to what we did on Keeper Street this fall. Those 2 roads would be Bitter Lake Road and the far end of Kinesis Lake Road, which were slated for upgrading back to a hard top by the previous council. So they're ready to go. So if we go to tender early, I mean, there's a chance, albeit a small chance, that it gets done in the spring. I'm thinking it's more likely a fall project. But it's a product that I'd really like to see part of our resurfacing program. Hopefully it stretches out the maintenance costs on the life cycle of the road itself.
Is that product always readily available?
No, they mix it right now. They mix it specific for each job. Just because they made a batch this fall and they're letting it sit over the winter to see how it fares. So perhaps in the future there will be a stockpile of it. But right now they mix it for each job that they bid. So.
On site or they truck it in?
Depending on the size of the job, they can do it on site if it's permitted use. It's not really something that we're allowed to do in our pits, so it's something that they'd be mixing off-site and probably trucking in.
So did you say it's been proven? Like, why don't we, this is the first year we've tried it here, is that correct? This is the first winter cycle we're gonna see with this product.
Yes, and this is not the same product that I've seen used elsewhere on Brady Lake Road. It's the same process. It meets the same spec, but it's not the same product.
So has it been tried somewhere else, or this is our first time at it? Everybody's. Is it new to Miller, I guess?
Yeah, so this is an open graded cold laid asphalt. An open grade cold laid asphalt was placed on Brady Lake Road 6 years ago now, 5.5, 6 years ago. But again, it's not the same product. It's a different producer of the emulsion. It all meets provincial spec, but I just wanted to see it. I wanted to see it laid, quite honestly. And my concern was snowplow damage, which we haven't seen yet.
So
So,
that's what I was making sure we're not gonna do miles of it and find out it's no
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
This is going back 40 years where we used to mix it on the road.
like a
remember?
mulch, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Well, you wouldn't
Stone and
remember, you
double-
were too young.
Stone and double chip.
yeah. Some of those roads are still around.
Well,
Yeah.
Harborne.
Yeah.
Still is fine.
Yeah, good work.
That brings me to another one for you, Rob, too, is that I got some people say to me, you know, like, they get cracks in the road and stuff, like, not very long after it's been resurfaced. And I try to tell people, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they're worried, have you got a warranty on with Miller? Well, you know what? It's not really Miller's fault. It's the B grade, the subgrade of the road. So
Yeah.
people don't understand that. And I just want to make sure that when I'm telling them that, you're on that same page, right?
Yes.
It's not something that they've done. It's something that just the way it is with the road. And if you want to fix that B grade road, then you're talking about
You're talking reconstruction.
reconstruction.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But there is a 1-year warranty on these surfaces for their defects. Generally, it's loss of aggregate, flushing, that kind of thing. But anything to do with the base, that's not covered by warranty.
Sometimes the stone has been changing, and what are they using now? Are they using granite or what is it?
Yeah, we specify granite in our contracts, so only because it's local.
Limestone just wash it away eventually. but-
Well, limestone's a clear stone, so you gotta be careful, like, it can flush up on you. The
Okay.
granite has fines in it, so we kind of take the flushing out of the equation and say the stone's right here, we're not trucking it in from out of county.
That's good. Lots of it here.
Mhm.
Murray, I just have one more quick question, please.
Yeah.
So Rob, I know this one here, if you could pull this rabbit out of the hat, you'd be, really popular. The patching of roads. Is there any way that somebody's thinking right now that they got some people locked in a room trying to figure out what kind of material to put in that'll last more than one rainfall or 2 trucks driving over? You know, I'm not being critical of our staff or anybody. I'm just saying, it just seems that the product or the process didn't work yesterday, and I just wish it would work tomorrow.
The short answer is no.
Okay.
I will kind of qualify that with, we are using a different cold mix now. We've tried it. This is our 2nd year, I think, maybe the 3rd. It does cost more, but we find it does stay much better, so it's saving us multiple trips out to the same site. Again, going back to Councillor Boyce's point, if your base isn't there, I mean, it means you're losing your shape of your road. The water's gonna sit there anyways. You're fighting a losing battle. Nothing short of basically rehabilitation is gonna fix it. So.
Okay, Walt. Okay, so we need a resolution on that. Do we have Mallory?
Okay. Be it resolved that council approves the 2024 road resurfacing contract extension with Miller Paving Limited in the amount of $1,324,584 excluding HST. And that council authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement with Miller Paving, authorizing the work outlined in the 2024 road resurfacing statement of work to proceed in 2024. And that council authorized staff to issue a tender for the provision of cold laid asphalt on Kinesis Lake Road and Bitter Lake Road.
Okay, mover and seconder, Barry and Carm, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Confirming bylaw,
All right, be it resolved that bylaw number 2024-01, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special meeting of council held on January 12, 2024. Be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and the corporate seal attached thereto.
mover and seconder. Nancy and Walt, all in favor? Carried. Okay, and the adjournment?
Murray, before you end here, could I speak, please?
Yeah,
I know I've been talking a bit here, but that's the way it is. I just want to comment in all the articles this week in the paper. I think it's unfortunate that you took one for the team here for council. I know all our council here, to me, we communicate a lot. I know that you do, I know that I do, but the perception there that you know, that you make all the decisions. Well, like buying that land, that, as far as I remember, council members, we all agreed on that. And we discussed it at great lengths. And I just think that in the past, I could sit here and throw the past council under the bus. But I was part of the past council. And so I'm part of that decision making. So I take the blame too. As far as I'm concerned, we should have bought the property then. So I just think it's important that we're into our second year of this council. And you know, I didn't have that perception that Murray and I are doing everything ourselves. I think we communicate pretty good with everybody. So I just hope you all feel that way. And if you don't, please contact us. And thanks for your time.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I appreciate that support, Walt. There's several ways you can do what I'm trying to do, or whoever takes this chair trying to do. You can lead and try and help projects ahead, or you can sit back and wait till they happen. And we wouldn't have had a lot of things. We wouldn't have had the college, we wouldn't have had the medical center, we wouldn't have had a lot of things if we just sat back and waited. And I think this move we made on the property is going to be good for the future of Dysart for sure. And I'm not worried about the financial implications either. I've never seen property, even though you get in a recession, it'll go down, but it always comes back up. You can't go wrong holding property if it's the right location. And I don't think we need to be worried about that. It'll produce for sure. It's good property. Okay, so we have we did have a confirming we need an adjournment.
Sure, I'll read that. Be it resolved that council adjourn its special meeting held on January 12th, 2024 at 10:44 a.m.
Mover and seconder? Carm and Pat. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, folks. I think we did some good work.